a lot of deep tech founders are engineering first or technology first guys, which means their comfort zone is to build a solution. We as investors, we are market first people. In deep tech, a lot of people say there are two value of debts. One is around technology, and the second value of debt is around commercialization.
So how does someone like me get into this world and become a VC? Ashish, welcome to the Founder Thesis podcast. You are a rare breed of a venture capitalist who is funding hardware instead of software. Why are atoms harder than pixels?
No, I don't know. I think first, I think there are quite a few of us, investing in hardware first companies, and we're one of the fortunate ones who saw some early success that kind of allowed us to kind of build our playbook around that. Yeah. And over the years, especially this coming decade, I expect more and more investors from all facets of life to kind of jump in to support these true innovators. Yeah, so I think you're right, but I think I also say that it's not about saying what differentiates atoms versus pixel, or howsoever I put it. We don't, at least I don't look at things from that particular perspective. The whole idea is we're an investor, we are backing founders, and from our perspective, we have our own definition of, let's say, what looks good for us, what is relevant for current times, and what could be significant, in the long term, right? And you pick your bets. A lot of people say that investing is all about making money, right? Within that, if you can support some great ideas who could be meaningful, create some significant impact over the years, that gives you more joy. Yeah, there are 1,000 ways of making money, and all each one of us need to do is kind of pick one that we're most comfortable with, that we're most excited about, and jump straight in, right? So we took a dive into the deep side of the pool, and we got attracted to the deeper end of technology, and we're playing ball. As simple as that, right? So it's not about differentiation; it's about seeing what appeals to you and where you could contribute the best.
What's your one big complaint as a deep tech VC fund? Like, for example, for founders, a lot of them would complain that investors don't get it. I'm not able to get funding, whatever. So as a VC fund, I'm curious what a fund manager has as his big complaint.
So Akshay, I don't want to use the word complaint, right? But there are few missing blocks, yeah, and these missing blocks are being built, right? Venture ecosystem in India is still very nascent. Yeah, all of us are learning. Be it a founder, be it an investor, be it a corporate backer, be it a buyer, all of us are trying to figure out what it takes to truly nurture and mature these companies. Yeah, there are pieces that I've learned over the years. Dealing with deep tech founders, and call them red flags or call them ways of doing our underwriting. One piece, as an example, we look at when we kind of meeting founders, building in in these kind of areas, is to understand obviously the technical chops, right? Their ability to kind of build this so-called robust solution. A lot of times, a solution that has never been done before. We're talking about a engineering breakthrough or a scientific breakthrough. There's an element of risk around technology, if that's going to be built or not. But we're taking a call if this team, this individual can, put the resources together to build it up. Where we suffer sometimes as a founder, investor, as a team, is that we end up over engineering or over building the solution. Yeah. So, we take our eyes off sales. We take our eyes off who are the potential buyers. So therefore, what I'm saying is that we're spending far too much time in the labs or in our basement building and designing those products, right? And so it's not a complaint. It's an area where I expect improvement to happen. That founders, while they may be technically solid and superior than a lot of others out there, go out and socialize the product as early as possible with the relevant or the prospective or the potential buyers. Yeah, that's the piece. There could be more. Not a complaint again, but it's an evolution of where the industry is. When you're looking to build anything in hardware, you know, I want to build a machine. That machine's got 100 small components within that, right? Now, each of those components are not available in India. Each of those components cannot be produced at a high quality in India. Therefore, the supply chain is complex, right? So I expect, over the years, people to take ownership that a lot of these components, especially the critical ones, are getting manufactured at the highest level of quality in India. And I think it'll probably take a decade or two to kind of reach that particular level, right? So again, an evolution, but it's a missing block, from my perspective. Yeah.
Okay. I want to zoom in on both parts of your answer. Um, how do you define PMF for a deep tech startup? Does it include sales, or like is it about? I don't know. Like how do you define that?
No, PMF includes sales. There is nothing called product market fit if the market is missing, right? I could demonstrate viability of that particular product in my lab setting, or in my factory setting, or in my workshop setting, but that's irrelevant if it's not being tested with potential clients. Yeah. Now, each of these client situations could vary. You can't take a full-fledged deep tech product and start generating sales early on, but there could be proof of concepts, there could be validation at the technology level, there could be a component of yours being integrated with the main product. So there are multiple ways of kind of engaging with possible buyers, right? And PMF in true sense includes that. And multiple portfolio companies of ours have demonstrated that particular aspect, and that PMF is a true inflection point. That's when you can say that in deep tech, a lot of people say there are two value of deaths. One is around technology, right? You could, like I said, a lot of these things play with a bunch of unknowns. We don't know if the tech will get created. So, there's a value of debt around that, if the tech will ever see light of the day. And the second value of debt is around commercialization, right? And the whole idea is to kind of cover both these valleys in parallel to make sure that by the time you have a fully baked product, you've got a bunch of people who are interested to buy your services and already tested it or collaborated with you in one way or the other. Yeah.
Okay. Can we talk a bit more on PMF? I feel like a lot of founders don't necessarily are able to judge on their own when they have found PMF, whereas investors are a lot more clear-eyed in judging if a startup has found PMF. Can you help bridge that gap?
No, I think, okay, so one is assessment in terms of what's a hardcore metric to say that if you hit this number, if you hit this particular, deliver to this particular target or whatever the number is, you've hit that PMF. But
like
I think
a
the fund.
$1 million ARR?
No. So it need not be an absolute sales number. Sometimes you could say that, these are my three marquee prospective clients. Get me a pilot with one of those, right? This is a geography of interest for me. This is, get me interest within that, right? I'm a component guy. I play within multiple use cases. Give me an example at how my solution works in those use cases, right? So there could be multiple ways of doing that. And, we're not fussed about the absolute number. Is it 1 million? Is it 5 million? Is it 10 billion? That doesn't matter, right? The piece where, if at all there's a gap between the founder mindset and the investor mindset, is more around comfort, right? A lot of deep tech founders are engineering first or technology first guys, which means their comfort zone is to build a solution, right? We as investors, we are market first people. right? And so the gap often is, the founder could be saying that, the CTO could be saying that, I'm not ready to take this product to the market yet, right? And from our perspective, he's saying, no, what you've built so far is good enough to be tested, and that feedback will allow us to understand if a market exists or not, and more importantly, the solution's viable or not, and plus give us idea in terms of the price points, the use cases, and so on and so forth. So the more time you spend early on with clients or customers gives you enough, that feedback loop kind of works very well. So it's the mindset gap. I'm comfortable working in a garage and just kind of cracking it up to saying this is the solution, it works very well. And as an investor, I'm saying, let's go to the market, let's figure it out, what's happening, what's not, right? And the true alignment happens when these two minds, agree on a path, execute on the path, and start seeing results. Yeah.
Okay, so you said that there are two valleys of death in deep tech. One is commercialization risk, and second is technology risk. Can you give some case studies?
Now, so, from our experience with portfolio companies or market in general, uh, we've seen enough examples where founders have picked up an area to develop, or be it a scientific breakthrough, engineering breakthrough, like I said, and it's kind of stayed in the labs, right? And it's never seen light of the day. We've seen it in healthcare. We've seen it in healthcare. We've seen it in electric vehicles. One example in electric vehicles was a company building in the commercial vehicle space, and the idea was to build these large and medium haul trucks, which could fly on electric. Yeah. And at a lab level, at the so-called MVP level, which you were talking about, it felt that the proof of concept worked very well. But when you kind of reached a place where you're trying to build evidence of how superior your technology is, or are you able to kind of uh, manufacture the product at scale, right? It's an idea, it works at a lab, but when you kind of take it to at scale, the economics did not stack up, right? We've seen a recent example around battery chemistry. A founder or two were looking to reinvent and build our own EV cells, as an example, and didn't see light of the day, right? So there are several, but this is the risk we take as an investor, anyways. When you're kind of coming in at that particular stage, we don't even know if this could be developed, and plus we don't even know how long will it take. So the product is no longer deep tech, as an example. If we have a clear path, then in 1 year I'll be able to move from point A to point B. My point B is my MVP. Point C, another 12 months, and that's a product market fit. It doesn't happen, right? We don't know how long does it take in the lab to kind of get the first set of products. Yeah.
What are the stages at which people come to you? Like, do they come to you at when they are in the lab stage, or do they come to you with uh, near PMF stage? Or
We've obviously have had all kind of scenarios, right? So as an example, Akshay, today we do our typical seed stage investment, call it pre-seed or seed, and we also do Series B investing. So Series B is early growth, which essentially means there are revenues, there's a ready product, technology is baked, and we're looking at compounding from there on. Yeah. But at pre-seed seed, I'll give you an example of a company in our portfolio called Pixxel. Yeah. Pixxel is a space tech company. In a very simple manner, they're building a constellation of nano satellites powered with hyperspectral imagery. Yeah. We backed them in 2019. Yeah. And, we started interacting with them 2018. My colleague, my partner, Manish, met them at a particular event. These two guys, the founders, Kshitij and Awais, were in fourth year of college then. Yeah. So obviously they had an idea, and they'd worked on that particular idea, and they had kind of worked on it deep enough to figure out where the opportunity is, who are the potential buyers, the effort it will take to kind of design the satellite, who do they work with from a component perspective, how they're going to launch it, who's going to buy, and so on and so forth. Deep research. But when we met them, they had a slide deck, right? That's all they had, right? There's another company of ours, another space tech company. It's a company called Bellatrix. Yeah. Again, we invested in Bellatrix 2018, 2019 timeframe. Yeah. So Pixxel is building their own satellites powered with hyperspectral imagery. Bellatrix is building, let's call them engines, propulsion engines for in-orbit navigation, as an example. Yeah. When we started working with them, they had a body of work behind them. They were working with DRDO, they were working with ISRO. So, they were around for 3 to 4 years. They were not at a stage where they had space qualified assets, but with the work they'd done, with the setup they had, you could tell the effort and the resources it will take to kind of make them space qualified. Yeah. So one, Pixxel started with at an idea level. We backed them, and today they have a space qualified asset. It's the first company in the world to offer hyperspectral imagery, right? Bellatrix, again, that's a second company. They also have space qualified assets, and they've done it not once, not twice, 4 times over, right? Working with some large organizations, right? So two examples where, different approach. We're doing, talking about space, we're now doing a third space tech investment. I'm not going to talk about that. It's still in stealth mode, but that again is a paper idea, right? But an experienced set of founders. The reason I'm bringing that in, Pixxel, Awej and Kshitij were fourth-year students. Yeah. Now this space tech company, it's an idea still, nothing on the ground, but these are both with 10 to 15 years of experience behind that. So this work, which you can refer back to gain confidence, can these guys build a solution like that? Yeah. So I don't know if it answers your question, but we see the full spectrum. Yeah.
Uh, Very interesting that you do seed and Series B, but not Series A. What is the reason for this strategy?
First, I want to clarify that we're doing seed, we're doing Series B from the same fund. We're not saying that from this particular fund, we're not saying that the seed will jump up to Series B and that's when we'll follow on. We're not saying that. Yeah. Series B is a fresh entry for us. It's a new entry for us. Therefore, we're building a new asset. Yes, we will end up backing some of our previous portfolio companies at Series B. Yeah. So this is not that, follow-on capital is available at Series B and not at A. Yeah. But the key reason for this thesis, Akshay, is, we were talking about product market fit. Yeah. We were talking about the time it takes to, truly build a solution, the value of debt around technology as an example. And our realization over the years of working with these 10, 15, 20 deep tech founders is the Series A is not the inflection point. Series A, the needle has moved, but not to the extent where you can say that this is the inflection point. Technology is still at risk. We don't know what the market is. We don't even know a lot of the use cases, which could come out. So Series A is underwritten in a very similar manner as how you would underwrite a seed asset. Yeah. And we realized over the years that Series B is where, you hit true PMF. And from here, like I said, I've used the word compounding a lot. We expect things to grow exponentially. And we wanted to bring that flavor in our portfolio, right? So seed is true disruption. Seed is therefore, places where we expect newer industries to emerge, we're taking a 10 to 15-year view at that seed stage. Series B is more a commercial bet that we expect in the next 3 to 5, 7 years. Let's say from $1 million in revenue, they could scale to a 10 million in revenue or 100 million in revenue. Yeah. So two different sides, think of it as the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain, and, merging it into a single fund. Yeah.
So okay, that's pretty interesting. How is a seed, Series A, Series B defined? Is it purely like a valuation, check size definition, or like how do you define these different rounds?
No, obviously, seed is essentially means the first check, right?
Hmm.
And at first check, like I said, we're taking all the risk. We're taking a founder risk, we're taking a technology risk, we're taking a use case risk, we're taking a market risk, we're taking a commercialization risk, all the risk, right? At Series A, there are some proof points to saying needles moved, right? And, technically, at a Series A, we're saying that we have an eye on a particular market or we have an eye on a particular opportunity. We've got some validation of the technology done. It may not be the holistic solution which we're building, but there's something on the ground which tells us or gives us confidence that we're on the right path, right? Yeah, and obviously it's a slightly bigger check, allows you to kind of build a better team, and it could also mean that you're raising additional capital for one or two more experiments which you want to do or solutions that you want to build.
And typically, what are the check sizes or valuations at seed, Series A, Series B?
It varies, right? So seed round currently for, let's say, a deep tech company could be anywhere between 1 million to 3 million. Yeah, we've seen 5 million seed stage checks as well. Therefore, the valuation could be anywhere between 7-8 million to maybe 20 million. Yeah, so it's not a
You're
standard way of
typically
assessing it.
looking at
Yeah,
a 15-20% ownership.
yeah, 10 to 15% ownership,
And
but the round could mean that you're diluting up to 20%.
hmm,
Yeah, the round
okay.
at the round level, you could be diluting 15 to 20%. We could be taking a reasonable equity out of that, what's available. Series A could be a 5 to 10 million check. Series B could be a 20 to 40 million check. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Um, so you were speaking of Bellatrix, Pixxel. What is the space tech TAM? What are the opportunities in space tech? How big is that market overall? Because now you're doing a third investment, you obviously must have gotten a macro view of that opportunity.
No, so obviously, when you kind of look at the research papers, and all the documents being published on space tech, uh, the numbers being discussed are in trillions of dollars. We're not talking billions, we're talking about trillions of dollars, right? The largest private space tech company, SpaceX, yeah, I think currently they're probably around 400 to 500 billion in valuation. Yeah, they probably do around 15 to 18 billion in revenues every year. Yeah, I read through an analysis and the teams projecting that SpaceX alone could be worth 2 to 3 trillion in the next handful of years, right? So they see that coming. Yeah, and SpaceX is doing just one part of the work, right? So uh, rocket launchers, obviously a very unique approach around that. They throwing satellites in the orbit. Pixxel in our portfolio companies, it's in the Earth observation game, right? What a SpaceX is doing, companies in India like a Skyroot and Agnicool are attempting similar stuff in their own unique ways, right? Within satellites, somebody's working around thermal imaging, somebody's putting SAR, right? Somebody's putting ears in the sky. How do you pick up radio frequency signals? We're talking about data servers in orbit. We're talking about debris management. So the opportunity is immense, right? And across the board.
This is private spend versus government spend in the space TAM.
Actually, a lot is private now. A lot is private. Obviously, people like in India, as an example, ISRO, DITO, they spend a lot. They support a lot of these activities. But a lot of these innovations happening at the private level, right? And
So who are
and
the consumers? Like who's paying for these space services?
who? So if you look at uh, Pixxel as an example, right? Or even Bellatrix, I'll talk about that. So Pixxel, they sell to the Indian defense, IDEX as an example. So they're buying from them. They have a contract with NASA, so they're buying from them. Private companies like Rio Tinto, British Petroleum, Phillips 66, Google, they're buying from them. So these are large companies for different use cases. Some people are using it from an agricultural use case. How do I kind of view the quality of crop? Some people are using it from a mining perspective, that where is the next copper composition. Some people are using it from an environment protection perspective, deterioration of lake as an example, right? So the use cases are immense, and reality is that private companies have never seen hyperspectral imagery before, right? They've seen, but they're not seen at scale. And here's a company which is saying, I'm going to provide you at scale, and I'm going to provide you with a regularity which allows you to kind of see how things are changing over a period of time, right, with historical data. So analytics and insights is a huge part of within that, right? And the opportunity therefore is very, very large. So, but my learning, you asked a question, space, what's the TAM? Obviously, it goes to trillions of dollars. But each of the company they've got their own addressable market, a serviceable market, right? All of those markets in subsets are large enough, right? But when we come in at seed stage, Akshay, sometimes I think it's foolish to kind of be swayed away with those large numbers. Yeah, because we're dealing with a lab set issue. We don't even know if this technology is something we can take in. But we also know that if we're able to get this breakthrough out, the worst case scenario is that somebody could acquire them, right? That's the worst case scenario. Yeah. If you're not able to kind of take this to market or commercialize this value in the IP itself, right? Now, in our portfolio, we get to see, a lot of examples, where the IP has been sold or acquired by a larger company. But that also means that the market is still nascent. Over the next 5-10 years, that market will also evolve. Yeah.
Okay. Uh, why is hyperspectral imaging such a big deal? Can you just help me understand what is this technology?
No, so, from a simple perspective, think of it like that. You and I as humans, when we're kind of viewing an object, we're doing our RGB level, right? Now, here's a piece of object which has been sliced in, let's say, 250 different light bands, right? And each of the light band is giving you a different composition of the object you are imaging, right? So image number 53 could say copper composition. Image number 59 could say magnesium composition. So you're looking at the same piece of land as an example, or the same object, but the way you sliced it, in different bands, it gives you a different insight, right? So, therefore, you get to see different stories, unique stories, something which a naked eye could miss, or something which, a multispectral imagery could miss.
Got it. Okay. Understood. So, from what I understand, a large part of the space time is insights and analytics, especially private consumption.
No, so, launch is a huge thing. If SpaceX gets
Launch is
large part of
also
the...
leading to eventually
No,
satellites which give insights.
No, one is insights, but for SpaceX, Starlink is, as an example, the biggest client.
Communication. Okay.
Communication is another one, right? So that's a big thing, and the rest of the areas are still being developed, and they'll open up those markets. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Does India have a exit ecosystem? Like you said, the worst case scenario is for a company to be acquired.
No. I think I often say, or I used to say, no longer now, if you spend time in India, we don't know how to make highways, right? Our definition of highways is that, just kind of expand the number of lanes. Therefore, more traffic can be accommodated, and therefore each of those vehicles on the road can move a little faster than usual. Yeah. But each of the exits that we design, these are all bottlenecks, right? So, I live in a place called Gurgaon now, and, I'm a Delhi guy through and through. When the Delhi-Gurgaon highway was built, the highway was smooth, but coming out of the highway could be a 20-minute, could be a 50-minute ordeal, right? Now, you take the same analogy to deep tech ecosystem as an example, or even early stage ecosystem as well. Today we're building our entry roads. How do we get more and more people excited about participating and supporting these ventures? and alongside, the exits and the consolidation and the mergers and the up rounds and everything will flow, right? So, today, at least when we enter into companies, we're not thinking about what's going to happen, 5 years, 7 years, 8 years down. There's a deep belief that markets will open up, things will shape up right. But today, these exits are non-existent, especially for deep tech. Yeah. But now I'll take you another example. We spoke about space. Take defense as an opportunity. Yeah. And over the last 2-3 years, we've seen enough situations, enough conflicts in the world, which is pushing every country to become resilient, right? And to manufacture a lot of the work or a lot of the products locally, indigenously, and therefore IP first companies, right? Within defense, if you look at the value structure in India, there's the large companies which are public sector owned, could be a BEL, HAL. There are these private guys like a Godrej, like the Tatas, Adani's now, they're into defense. There are these bunch of listed companies, like Zen, Paras, multiple others, who are building capability. And now this new crop of startups are coming in. Yeah. What are these startups doing? They're saying, how do we bring in the modern technology into warfare? Yeah. Autonomous unmanned vehicles compared to taking a fighter jet to this thing. Ability, you use the word drones, ability to detect those drones, jam those drones, be it a soft kill or a hard kill. And they're bringing AI, they're bringing this autonomous and multiple other modern technology into subset. Now, when these guys scale up, I expect an exit ecosystem that already exists, because we've got these large public sector units, we've got these large private companies who are eyeing this sector. We've got these, mid-sized companies who are building those technology. So there will be an appetite for these young companies, sitting with IP that could be sold or acquired by them, right? So space, very different ball game. Defense, which is again deep tech, all of a sudden you see there's an ecosystem in play already. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
So when you are raising capital from your LPs, LPs are essentially the people who fund VC funds. What do you tell them? Do you because this defense opportunity is recent, but you have been raising for a decade now.
Yeah.
So what has been your pitch to LPs about why they should back deep tech?
So I think, one is, we spoke about this little macro situation around the conflicts happening globally. The other big situation which kind of pushed, India as a country to become more resilient was the COVID situation, right? And, COVID made everyone realize that you can't be dependent on a single source for all your products. As an example, you got to have a backup. A backup needs to be large enough. Call it a China plus one strategy or a China plus two strategy, whatever that thing is. So over the last 4 or 5 years, you've seen enough instances which kind of suggesting that these sectors, and these sectors we label them at growX as modern industrials. Be it space, be it defense, be it aerospace, semiconductors, new age industries. And these are the industries which will, form the, fulcrum of what maybe the next set of large companies or institutions will get built. Yeah. So this is one set. The other piece which, we often cite is, if you kind of look at US as an example, and if you look at the top 5 companies, the top 5 companies, listed companies, are all tech first companies, right? And takes the same example of China, you'll find many such large companies sitting in China as well. So it's a matter of time that India is going to replicate on that. Yeah. Now you could wait for 20 years to invest in those listed companies. Then some of these will emerge, or take a bet today and support some of those new ideas. Yeah. The third piece from an LP perspective is always around diversification. Yeah. To saying, all the LPs, all the investors, these are wealthy individuals or wealthy families, right? This, for them, it's not about to saying I'll either invest in public or do private. I've got a limited source. They are thinking about how do we diversify, and how do we have an element of each. From their perspective, decision making is, should I allocate 20% towards private assets, which is our kind of work, or should I do 5%? Right. So the whole idea is to kind of say, as to within that 5% or the 20% which you are assigning with private, why deep tech could be a big alpha generator, right? And that could be a third way. The fourth thing, obviously, is people gain confidence in who you are. When we are backing companies, we getting excited about the founder, right? So we backing the founder. It's the jockey, not the horse, right? Same thing when an LP is picking up a fund manager. They're taking a call, or they're taking a bet on the fund manager and the team and the work we've done, and our ability to source deals, our ability to find those winning bets, our ability to make sure that we can get them to the 0 to 1 journey, improve the probability of success. That's another factor which kind of comes into play. But I also want to say that raising capital in India is tough for a fund, right? Is I don't know, as an entrepreneur, if you're just kind of building a single company, it's a lot easier to raise capital, as opposed to getting people to back a long-term, illiquid, blind pool sort of a fund structure. You see the issues, right? Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So I'm going to zoom into the growX journey, how you raise funds. But before that, so you said the jockey, not the horse, is your investing philosophy. I want to kind of understand at the seed stage. See, at the Series B stage, intuitively, one would assume there are enough numbers and enough due diligence and enough data to make informed decisions. But at the seed stage, you don't necessarily have enough data to make informed decisions. What is your decision making framework when you are seeing so many pitches coming to you, and you're probably selecting one out of 100, or it might even be a bigger denominator there? But what's your decision making framework?
No, so I think the first thing is, we've been doing this for years. Yeah. Uh, our first investment was back in 2012. Yeah. And obviously, we've, over the last 12, 13 years, yes, we've interacted with maybe close to 15,000 startups. Yeah. Or we've looked at those 15,000 decks. We may have met 5, 6,000 of those. So, what's happening with that is that our own judgment is getting sharper, right? Our own ability to find who's the right founder, who should we bet, who can deliver, who can execute, who can hire the right kind of resources, who can build as well as sell. We build those frameworks, right? And I want to just say this as well, that I'm blessed to have a partner in Manish. For me, he's a true polymath, right? He's the under the hood guy, right? His ability to kind of pick up and different sectors and different themes and go deep and find the opportunity is quite unique, right? And he's reached that place as well after meeting a lot of the founders, right? So these are conversations. Yes, there is a framework. Yes, we ask a certain type of questions, but at the end, you feel good about the opportunity, and that opportunity, you feel good about the founder, and you end up taking the bet, right? I think it's more about, you took an example, we back 1 out of 100. Yeah. The 99 which we don't back, we could see red flags within those. We could see issues within those. So sometimes even the one which you're investing in, it's a risk you're taking. It does not mean that you picked up 1 out of 100 that you will see this into a large success story. There's an element of failure, and there's a large element of failure. So you could go wrong, right? But we couldn't find red flags. We felt good about that particular opportunity and the founder, and we said, let's just kind of go all in and support that. Yeah. I'm going to give you another example. A lot of people have asked us, why did we invest in Pixxel back in 2019? They were college students, right? Yes, there's a power of idea. Yes, the founders inspired us and so on and so forth. But, we still took a bet. We said, let's go all in. But the big reason for that is that our minds were prepared. And I'll tell you how. Yeah. Maybe 18 months prior to us meeting, or 12 months prior to us meeting Pixxel, we had reviewed 5, 7, 8 different space technology companies. Yeah. We had made an offer to one, which was in the communication play. We wanted to invest and lead a round. They wanted to raise 3 million at that point of time. So, that opened up a perspective in terms of how satellites could be used, to enable connectivity. And obviously, there was a SpaceX, there was a OneWeb, there were multiple other ideas out there. But that was the one where we made a decision. Yeah. And we made that decision after looking at another 4 or 5. Then we looked at Bellatrix, which we invested in. And Bellatrix allowed us, gave us a idea around different use cases. Okay, there's connectivity, communication piece happening. There's a component play, why propulsion systems are important. What's the issue with the current state of affairs within propulsion systems? How are these guys being different? Who could buy that? What are the different opportunities within Earth observation? And therefore, when Pixxel sat in front of us, we had done a lot of work. Our minds were prepared to react. Had they reached out to us when we had no knowledge or understanding of space tech, I don't think so we would have said yes, right? We would have been in the same boat as the 100 investors who passed on that opportunity and saying, this is not for us, this is too early for us, we don't know how to contribute in this particular sector, right? And again, Manish did a lot of heavy lifting for us over the last 12 months prior to us sitting in front of Pixxel to take that call. That fundamentally is also very important when we kind of take those calls. So this is not about us just reacting, right? We do a lot of reading, we do a lot of assessment before our first call with the founder as well, right? Just to make sure you're able to ask the right kind of questions, just to make sure the founder gets the feel that, hey, these guys know or they understand and they appreciate what we're building. That's fundamentally more important, right?
Interesting. So you're saying that the takeaway from a founder's perspective is to find funds which have built a thesis in your space, because only they will truly get what you're building.
Yeah, so build the thesis or a framework, or they see an opportunity, how's you going to put it, right? Now, the reason I'm reacting in this particular way, and we've changed our approach slightly, and I'll give you an example. There was a time at growX, we had a thesis first approach. So, we took electric vehicles as a segment, back in 2018, I think. And we said, let's just scan this. Yeah. What are all the opportunities? Let's just kind of think through those opportunities and figure out the one or two which are the most attractive from our perspective. Yeah. And then we found a particular opportunity. So as an example, we picked up that passenger vehicles will take longer to scale as opposed to shared mobility. Yeah. So, your taxi should go green first, your two-wheeler should go green first, your delivery fleet should go green first. So the right idea. So we picked up that as an opportunity back in 2018 as an example. And we worked through our own ideas in terms of what will it take to scale these companies, right? Which essentially means that once we're sitting in front of an opportunity, which essentially means that first we will go all out and find people or founders working this particular space. The second thing which we were doing then was we say, okay, I found a founder, I've got these 5 guys, but who is talking our language that, this is our approach to do that. And that may sound very logical, but when you kind of put it to use as an investor is counterintuitively wrong way of approaching, because you're putting your ideas on the table all the time. You are focusing more on the race, the horse, as opposed to the jockey. Yeah. And therefore, you could end up making compromises on the jockey because you see the problem and you're saying, I have a perspective in terms of how these opportunities scaled up. So the change or the evolution in our thinking as well is that, don't be hardwired to saying, this is all I want to do. Prepare your minds, but be open minded and learn from the founders. The best of the founders will teach you where the opportunity is, and you'll be able to react well, respond well, work with them, and appreciate that. Do you understand where I'm coming from? Yeah,
Very, very, very interesting. Um, i- is this kind of thinking prevalent in the VC community of
I'm
not
sure.
being led by thesis too much,
See,
or
देखो, we're a small fund. Yeah, we do things our own way. There are smarter people available out there. There are bigger funds out there. Everyone's got their own approach. They got their own playbook, right? And they are smart in their, with the way they deploy their capital, right? Uh, Sometimes very difficult to appreciate as to how people think, how people approach. Our job is to make sure we do what we are comfortable with and what works well for us, right? And taking the same alignment, a lot of people say this real value when you take non-consensus bets, right? Is the same thing that as an investor, you build your own framework that works beautifully for you, right? I've never gone out and asked people in terms of how do they approach decision making. I've never gone out to ask, what's the current thesis, what are you looking to do? And I'm talking about seed stage managers as an example, peer group from that particular perspective. We evaluate every investment they do. We try to make sense of every company that is raising capital. We discuss, debate from a perspective of learning, from a perspective of seeing that what have we missed, what is that we were not seeing, where could we go wrong, and building our own frameworks better. Yeah, but truth be told, like I said, we're a small fund. We do our own few investments every year. There are far more smarter people out there. Yeah, and you interviewed a bunch of those guys anyway. So yeah.
um, okay? So you're saying that the founder is the most important piece of the puzzle to look at. Uh, what are you looking for in a founder? And I mean, I've asked you this question previously, and your answer was not satisfactory. You said we've spent years and we've developed frameworks, and when
Acha,
we don't see any
no,
red
no,
flags,
no, no,
so
fair point, fair point.
uh,
No, I think what are we looking for in the founders? And this is me talking. This is, let's say, the way I would assess. You walk into the first meeting. I want to come out after that first conversation that I've learned a few things about the sector, about the problem they're solving for. Yeah. And learned in a perspective that I may be aware that this is a sector, this is where the opportunity is, but the founder will always have a unique perspective or a nuanced approach to solve for it. Yeah. So you come back and say, aha, this is a very interesting way of kind of slicing this problem, right? So that's number one. If there are meetings where you come out and saying, nothing inspired me, we were just talking what's available out there, more often than not, there isn't a second meeting, right? Now we want to replicate the same results for the second meeting, for the third meeting. And in my head, it's very clear that if the first meeting you're learning something, second meeting you're digging deeper, you'll still come out with a lot of insights. The third meeting you do the same thing. These are the kind of guys you want to back because they've literally lived with this problem or the need and have the passion to solve for it, and that will show in itself. So you're asking them the basic questions: that why are you doing it, why the pain, why are you relevant, it's the same usual things, right? But the responses will tell you if you're on the right path. So the learning is a key, right? The second element, which I spoke about earlier, we're looking for people who can balance executing tech or building tech with commercializing tech, right? They have that perspective in terms of where the market is, why they believe that that is a particular set of clients they will approach, when they will approach, right? So, that commercial orientation is important, right? You may hit the market much later, but at least you've done your work, you've done your assessment, and uh, uh, you have a you have a handle in terms of uh, you know uh, the GTM, if you like, or the structure you're going to take. The third important thing, which probably is related to the two pieces I said, is clarity. Clarity in the roadmap you build for the next 12 to 18 months. Yeah, experiments are good. A lot of people say that startups are all about experimenting, all about pivoting. In deep tech, that's not the case. You know, deep tech, you're saying this is what I want to solve for. In the first year at least, there is no room for playing around with different models or experimenting or saying, "अच्छा, ये नहीं चला, ये कर लेता हूँ, ये नहीं चला, ये नहीं चला." You can't do that. So that implementation plan or your execution roadmap needs to be very, very clear, right? Sometimes this piece, we also work with the founders post investment as well, but prior to us committing, we get enough validation that the founders are thinking right. Yeah. uh, the fourth thing, which sometimes is important, is we ask, and we obviously, how much do you need, why do you need, where the money will go, where the money will come from, who are your right investors. And the right founders have done a lot of work around that. Why should I raise from growX? Why should I raise from Special Invest? Or why shouldn't I raise from an XYZ fund? They've done that thinking, and they have a perspective in terms of as to how this investor founder relationship will work. That's also fundamentally important, right? A lot of people miss out on this part, because the excitement is to just kind of go out and raise whatever money is available and, kind of get started. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think there could be more, but, these are the top 3, 4 that kind of comes to my mind. Yeah.
No, this is good stuff for founders. I think, uh, I mean, in terms of someone who wants to pitch to you, there's a lot of clarity which has come out. Like, focus on insights first. A lot of people tend to speak of TAM first. I think possibly better than that is to show that you understand the market, you understand the pain, you understand the technology, and try and educate the investors in the conversation instead of trying to talk of TAM. Or a lot of founders I see also talk a lot about past achievements which they have done, which you did not mention at all. So I
Yeah.
found that surprising. But yeah,
Yeah.
uh,
No,
which. Hmm.
you're right. We've sat through pitches where the scheduled time is 45 minutes, 60 minutes, 75 minutes. But the first 30, 40 minutes is all about your backstory, right? And and it's not relevant, right? I'll be very honest. We've done at growX through different vintages. We've probably done 48, 49 investments so far. Yeah. If you ask me the question, or if you ask my colleagues or my partner the question, how many went to IIT? How many are your US Ivy League guys? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, you backed college kids, right? So obviously you're not looking at past achievements.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and past achievements give you confidence. So it's important. Yeah, but it's not the one that will truly define you in terms of what you can build in the future. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, interesting. A lot of
yeah.
founders also feel like they have to create FOMO among investors.
Uh,
Does that work?
no, it works. Why not? It works. Because the point is
Hmm.
the advantage of, call it FOMO. Okay, the fear of missing out. What does it do? What you trying
First,
to create
can
a
you
sense of
give me
urgency.
can you give me an example of how a founder would do the FOMO first, and then tell me if it works or not?
No, so, FOMO. you could say, hey, I'm in advanced conversation with two other guys. Those two
Okay.
guys happen to be a competitor,
I'm
and
expecting a term
I'm
sheet
expecting
in
a term sheet
yeah,
there. So that's
okay.
one
Yeah.
angle, that is investor interest. If you
Mm,
don't respond now, you could end up losing a deal. So
mm,
more
mm.
around commitments coming in, stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, I think it's largely around that. That you're
Right.
positioning that
Okay.
this is the hottest deal. I'm the
Mm,
hottest founder,
mm,
and I'm in demand, right? So
mm, mm, mm,
that's what you're doing.
mm,
But
mm,
I guess what is in the same way, it's about, rather than saying create FOMO, it's about creating a sense of urgency, right?
mm, mm,
To saying why this opportunity is relevant today, why the earlier you respond, and the earlier we kind of get started, the better for me to kind of hit the market, right?
mm,
So if
mm,
we're able to kind of create a sense of urgency, founders will respond and react.
mm,
But that FOMO works also way from a founder mindset. If you do it right, if you do it ethically, if you do it honestly,
mm,
let's say someone's pitching to me,
mm.
and I'm the only dude they're pitching to. I'll take my own sweet time. Right? I'll
Right.
say, अच्छा अभी मिलते हैं, फिर 4 हफ्ते में मिलता हूँ, फिर 8 हफ्ते में मिलता हूँ. I'll take my own sweet time. I'm
Mm,
testing the founder in that period as well. That
mm,
how
mm,
the needle is moving between day 1 and day 100, right?
mm. Right.
So you put more players in the mix.
Mm,
Make sure it's a it's an actual race where
mm,
multiple people are eyeing the same price, and create that sense of urgency. Do it positively.
mm,
What I don't like, or what I don't appreciate, is when people just kind of throw names, when
mm,
people just kind of throw term sheets which are non-existent. Yeah,
mm,
and
mm. Then they
that is
take
something
anything.
which is
Mm,
absolutely avoidable, right?
mm.
Be real, be honest, and play to your strengths. If you are in front of the right investor at the right time, good things will happen. Yeah.
How honest should a founder be? Because at times there are questions to which your answer is I don't know, but you will typically on your deck have some roadmap, for example, or whatever. But in your heart, you might say I don't know, I'll figure it out, but you can't necessarily say that.
you know so let's say I asked 10 questions, and for all 10 the answer is I don't know. Then there's a problem, right? But there is nothing wrong with accepting that this is an interesting question. I've not thought about it in great amount of detail. Allow me some time to kind of come back with the right answer. uh, there is nothing wrong with that particular approach, and you're able to that level of honesty works. Because what also happens is that let's say a question is asked, be it on a TAM, be it on investor interest, be it on the folks you're looking to hire, be it on what the competitors are doing, and so on and so forth, and you just put a random answer. I think we're smart enough to understand there's no depth in the quality or the response we've got, right? So there's no point pretending that I'm smarter than the others, right? And be honest, be clear, and but once you're in a situation where you don't have the adequate response and you're asking for time, make sure you follow it up.
Hmm. Okay.
Make sure you follow it up to saying a day later, or 2 day later, or a week later, to saying I've done this analysis, I've spoken with a few people, I've had a brainstorm with my team, this is what we think, what it is. Would love to kind of get your reactions on that as well. That follow up is far more important than you know the I don't know situation in a particular meeting. So there's a room to kind of cover up. And this piece, we're talking about the founder investor piece. When we go out and raise funds, right, with our LPs, it's not that we have all the answers. I've been in situations where people are asked a particular question, and I said, I don't know, right? This is a very interesting question. We just need to do some work around that, right? And but go back with that response, and if the response works, things will move in the right direction. Yeah. So, but Akshay, the piece you asked was, how honest should a founder be? Is about saying how honest should a relationship be?
Hmm.
right? So if you could just, if let's say you're dishonest with your responses, and we end up doing some work together, I wasn't smart enough to judge that. What will this dishonesty lead to? This will become a behavior. This will become a pattern, and you're just kind of pushing yourself in a particular trap, right? And be it at the time of raising capital, be it at the time of post investment, updating your investors, be honest, right? One small example, I may have written about it as well. Updates speak a lot, right? The the mistake a lot of founders do is not, you know go back to the investors, existing or prospective, in the defined frequency. That rigor is the most important thing, right? So if I'm saying I've agreed on a monthly update rigor, what's happening in the first week of the succeeding month is people are saying, hey, what is the big news I can share? Then saying, hey, I don't have a big update, let me just add another 2-3 days, abhi ye hone wala hai, fir batata hu. You miss that window. That 4 weekly update tends to be a 6 weekly, then it's a quarterly, then it's a 6 monthly, and there's a clear sign that the business is under tremendous stress. Say the way it is. We're in it with the founders. We're in it to build together, and we know that any business is associated with a bunch of risk, right? Everything will never go as per plan, and we're prepared to kind of take that on and support the founders in as much as we can.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. What do you answer to an LP when they ask you when will you give me my money back? Is there a, because the thing is that you, as you said, the exits are not yet there for deep tech. Then how does that happen in your fund structure?
No, so like I said, we've done these 49 investments. We've been in the market for 10, 12 years. We've had 9 exits, right?
Okay.
So we've had exits.
What kind of exits were there? Like acquisitions
No,
or
so no, we've
next
had
round?
we've had acquisitions. One of our companies, broadly a Series C, was acquired by Reliance. One of our companies was acquired by Quandl. One of our company was bought by EasyTap. So we've had acquisitions. We've had secondary exits. A larger financial investor buying us out at Series B, Series C. Yeah. One most recent exit from a previous fund is Pixxel. We took a small exit, announced it a few days ago. So again, a financial investor bought us out for the units that we sold. So we've had exits, and now there is enough proof points in the market. You can, to some extent, extrapolate, to some extent give a guidance that these kind of companies take this kind of time to maturity. So yes, if a question is asked by our investors, what's the broad plan, we have a response, and our response is, we're an 8-year fund. The first 3 years is when we'll build the portfolio. Year 4 and year 5 is when you expect the portfolio to mature. We nurture these companies, we support those companies, they go out and raise the next round of capital. Year 6 onwards is when we start generating exits. So year 6 and year 7 and year 8 is when money will start rolling back. Our expectation is that year 6 we should be able to generate a meaningful exit, which translates to broadly your capital being returned, right? So, we're drawing down capital year 1, year 2, and year 3. Take an average at year 2 is the point. Year 6 is when we exit. Time in the system, 4 years is when, the money is blocked in with us. Yeah. So we have a response, and this response is built in based on what we've seen with the portfolio, based on what we've seen with the market, based on what we expect how the market to evolve. Yeah. Yeah.
How much time does it take for a seed stage investment to uh, be
Go on to
nearing?
Series C.
Yeah. The Series C is when you would
So
look at an exit, right? Either a
yeah,
financial
yeah,
investor or yeah.
that's right. So seed to Series C, and the reason why Series C tends to be a large round. Series C tends to be a defining round. Series C tends to be where larger investors are looking to bulk up their ownership. Series C, when the founder aspirations are 10x, they're saying open new markets, open new geographies, launch new products. So, it's a large meaty round, therefore. Yeah. And from seed to C, you could see a 100x sort of a number, 50x sort of a number, or in an average company, we have 15x, 20x, which is meaty enough to kind of classify them as fund returners, if you like. Yeah. Uh, the time it takes for a breakout company, it could be 4 to 6 years. We've had examples where companies have scaled from seed to Series C in 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. That's the band. There are companies which take, the first couple of years take longer, or in the middle it takes longer to achieve scale. So, you're talking about 7, 8 years. Yeah. So that's why going back to, our fund structuring, 3 years to build a portfolio, and for the last company you get a clear 5 years to generate the exit. Now, it's probably not even relevant for this, but when you construct the portfolio, you kind of think through what kind of companies require the longest gestation period. Yeah. So we're doing seed investment, we're doing Series B investment. Now, intuitively, the seed investment going up to Series B and Series C will take longer. So we are front ending a lot of our seed stage investments. Yeah. So year one will build a large part of our seed portfolio to give them the full life of the fund. The Series B will follow year 2 and year 3, faster to maturity, if you like. Yeah. So these are examples or ways of us making sure the liquidity can be generated and the right bets are taken at the right stage of the fund. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. This also is the reason why you're doing this combination of seed and Series B, so that liquidity is like a defining motivation for this strategy.
Akshay, when we started investing, the motivation was to build our personal angel portfolio, right? That was the motivation. And that motivation was met through finding the right founders, getting excited about what they're building, and putting a check. The check was diverse, ranging from at an individual level, couple of lakhs to tens of lakhs, or at a fund level, 40, 50 lakhs to a few crores. Yeah. But over the years, as you go deeper into the system, as you manage third party money, you have a fiduciary responsibility to generate returns, which means that the realization comes that your customer is the investor, not the founder. Yeah. So yes, we are founder first in our approach, but we are investor first in our returns, right? So you got to create the right balance to make sure the structure allows that flexibility. Yeah. So liquidity is important, and that's something which is core to our business. If we can't generate DPIs, dividends, or liquidity for our investors, they're not supporting us again, right? The newer guys are not coming in again. So, that's the cycle of this ecosystem, right? But the other reason also, which is very important, is when you're doing your seed stories, you're coming out of Series B and Series C, which means you're not seeing the long game. You're not playing the long game with the founders. Yeah. You're not sitting through a listing story, through a post-listing performance of a particular company, right? You want to see the full, journey from a seed to an enduring company. You want to see it all, and a lot of that, when you're part of those cycles, you bring those elements and fuse them into your underwriting mechanism. Now with the current fund, we get to see, we've done seed before, we get to see what it takes to support the seed. When we do the Series B to a potentially a listing story, we learn a different element. A lot of that could be baked in to our seed. Yeah. The other aspect, Akshay, what is happening is, over the last 10 years, 20 years, if you see the new age tech companies, what they've done is they've disrupted the incumbents or the legacy, the traditional players. Now there's a bunch of, why bunch? The early stage entrepreneurs are disrupting the disruptors, right? Right. So they're disrupting the disruptors, right? So if you apply both lens, that you're sitting on Series B, a 10 million ARR, how do you scale to 100 million ARR? And you have a lens of pure innovation and disruption happening at the ground level. You're able to see that what could go wrong in this 10 to 100 million path, right? So this different lens, different perspective allows us to generate returns, support the portfolio founders across different cycles, play the long game, and bring in all those learnings to make sure the playbook gets better. Does it make sense? Yeah.
Yes, yes, understood. Uh, so by year 8, you need to
Wrap
liquidate
it
all
up.
your holdings.
Yes.
Um, what if there have not been liquidation events for some of the portfolio companies? Then
No,
what
so
happens?
SEBI allows extensions, right?
Okay.
So in and obviously with the consent of your investors, yeah. So you could potentially extend it by another year, then another year. So you can increase the life of the fund if you're sitting on some assets, or the macroeconomic cycle is such that finding exits or creating liquidity is just not possible. You create those scenarios that you extend your fund life. Yeah. The other aspect which is very clear is today, earlier a lot of these private investments, the shares were in physical forms. The share were therefore the transferability was very limited. Now private shares are treated from a tech perspective in a demat format like public companies. At the end of a shelf life, you reassign or you allocate all these units in the hands of the investors, and the investors manage. Yeah. But from a liquidity perspective, also the market's also changing, Akshay. One is finding a larger investor who could buy it out. Now, this larger investor is taking different shapes. Yeah. As an example, there are a bunch of secondary focused funds which are hitting the market. They can buy your entire portfolio, or they can buy a few of your companies, right? The good ones, right? And they're saying, fine, we'll give liquidity to your investors. We'll hold it for the next 3-5 years, generate an alpha for ourselves, and take it forward. So the multiple structures which are available today to enable those exits for the early investors.
If you have deep conviction, can your next fund buy the
You can. Why not?
from the previous fund?
These are called continuity vehicles.
Okay.
People have done this in India as well. If I recall, Bloom did it with the first fund. Anika did it. A couple of other guys, I'm sure they've done it. These are standard structures available. So you can set up a next fund and saying I'm allowing liquidity at fair market value to my existing investors, and the new fund will hold it. Yeah, some of the investors who are getting liquidity could recycle back into the new fund, or a newer breed of investors who come in who are looking for safer assets, clear identified assets in terms of the companies you're backing, and therefore a path to liquidity. Yeah, absolutely, this is doable. Yeah,
Okay, interesting.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
what do you regret more, saying no or saying yes? So, regret saying yes means you said yes and it turned out to be a company which did not scale, and regretting
No,
saying no
so
means like it blew it out of the park and you said no.
no, the classic type A, type B, right? Error of omission, error of commission. Yeah. So no, first, once we're in, we've said yes, we're all in. There are no regrets, no question of any regrets. Yeah. And
Have a single regret in your portfolio of 49 where you felt like I took a bad call.
no, we took a bad call. There's one actually where we backed around a wrong founder. We had trust issues. In a way, it felt that the money wasn't truly deployed into what it was meant for. Yeah. So we've had 1 out of 49, but we've had several instances. I think 7, 8 of our portfolio companies that we've written off, right? And but in each of those instances, we knew, or we could tell that the founder, along with us and all the other investors, put in everything it required to salvage the asset, find some value, to rebuild, to make sure it remains relevant. Yeah, so that effort is important, right? And dealing with that. So therefore, there are no regrets. Regrets will happen when the founder gives up before us. Yeah, and or like I said, the example where the money was meant to build the business, but felt like it was diverted for personal needs. Yeah, so that is a regret, and you question your underwriting at that point of time. Yeah, I'll give you an example. From the current fund, we are investing in one of our founders. Yeah, we backed this founder. It's a stealth mode company. Actually, we're announcing it in the next week, 10 days.
So this
It's
episode will be live by the time you announce it, in case you want to mention
no.
it.
So if it's live after, then it's
It's live
okay.
after. Yeah, it's live after.
Yeah.
It will be live
So
after
this
6 8 weeks. Yeah.
this is a company called Armory. The founder is Amardeep Singh. We backed Amar in 2014. He was coming out of IdeaForge. Yeah, IdeaForge is a drones company, now a listed company, publicly listed company. He was the guy who built the initial set of drones, sold it to different parts of Indian Army or Indian Defense, right? So, had that body of work. But when he was coming out of IdeaForge, he was building a hardware company, but this was a consumer focused hardware company. Okay. We put in some seed check or an angel check at that point of time. And, Amar, Rahul, his co founder, and the rest of the team gave it everything. Yeah. But we had to wrap down the company after 2 years or 3 years of effort. They put in a lot of their own capital as well after a round, and we didn't see success. And now he's rebuilding again. We backing Amar. Yeah. The big reason why we're backing Amar, a lot of people could say, hey, it wasn't a financial success. It wasn't a positive outcome. Why are you putting in money again? The reason is our experience of working with Amar as an individual was top notch, right? His ability to create the product which he's picked up for his current startup, there is no reason to believe that he can't do it. So that fundamentally is important. It's not the financial outcome. It's the core around that, right? So we're open to that, and like people say, you learn more from failures. Success teach you nothing, right? It's failures that kind of teach you everything. We've heard this again and again, and here we are partnering again after a good 10 years. Yeah, and we are very, very excited about what he's building. This is a defense tech company, very relevant for the current times. We actually committed a few months ago before this India-Pakistan situation, and now all of a sudden this company is right in the center of demand, right? So here's an example. Yeah.
So you said essentially that you don't regret saying yes unless there's like a misallocation or misutilization of fund. Do you regret saying no?
Of course, the error of emission hurts you more. No, you've done your diligence, and you reached a place where you said no, and that company scaled up, and
What's
then
an
you go
example?
back. So I can give you two examples where the company has scaled up, and but we carry no regret, uh, or the company has scaled up and we're saying, what did we miss, right? We could have supported them, right? So one, I wrote about this. There's a company called Blue Smart,
Hmm.
which has been in the news over the last
Yeah,
few
yeah, yeah.
weeks. Yeah,
Again,
we
misutilization of funds.
yeah we looked at them at the seed round or the angel round. When they were raising the first round of 10 crores of capital. Yeah, and the diligence we did not stack up, and we decided we will not. But the first couple of years, at least I started using it as a consumer, and I
Yeah,
said, hey, this
yeah.
is a top
Superb
notch service,
experience.
superb
Yes,
experience, everything
absolutely.
stacks up.
Hmm.
We could have backed them as an example.
Right,
This
right.
could make money, but
Hmm.
today is a different story. That you kind of go back and say that this
So
is
what did not stack
the
up in
right.
the due diligence?
you
The
know, it's
governance
there.
or
It's there on my LinkedIn note.
okay.
There's a term sheet that they shared with us. The
Hmm.
term sheet carried a bunch of names that these are the people who are investing.
Hmm.
And we reached out to a few of those investors. They were known people, and the response was, "No, we're not in." Yeah.
Okay.
So
So
you just that
governance.
FOMO, the FOMO part which you were talking
Yeah,
about, right?
yeah, yeah. Right.
That FOMO part which you were talking about, that was being set to
Hmm.
play in
Right.
a wrong manner, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
we we were just fortunate that we said, okay, this does not stack up for us,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. Hmm. Okay.
There are tons of examples. I'll give you an example actually. This one, Misho,
Hmm.
yeah. So another
You
investor,
said no to Misho.
no. So I'll tell you. Obviously,
Hmm.
there's always a good reason to say no.
Hmm.
Misho, prior to Misho being Misho, it was called something else. I'm not getting the name right. So another investor, good friend, at that point of time used to work with Sequoia. He was a partner there with Sequoia Peak 15. Connected me, yeah, and he said, meet him and figure out if you like the model, right? At that point of time, this is maybe 2016. We were moving away from consumer companies, yeah, and we said we've not seen a lot of success. Our money is not doing the trick. We better off or more suited towards B2B companies, yeah. And but I had one call, and we're with it, and we said, I'm going to be in Bangalore soon. We'll meet up. I did go to Bangalore. He did reach out, but the meeting never happened, right? And because in my head I deprioritize backing another consumer company on the back of our own experiences. So yeah, Misho is what Misho is today. We had an opportunity to participate, and we could have at that point of time. But uh, I spoke about minds prepared, right? And our mind was prepared to look away, right? So and one is looking in, the other is saying, this is not for me. And but from a money making perspective, it could have dealt a good hand for us, right? So yeah, so there was an opportunity, and there could be tons more, right? It's not that I think if you scan through the anti portfolio, I'm sure there's a long list, yeah. But these are fun conversations. Do they give you regret? The answer is no. And I'll tell you why. Actually, in our business, in our trade, in the venture business, fundamentally, the most important thing is access to opportunities. Yeah. If you're seeing the best of the deals, and if you're seeing the best of the deals early on, that means your flywheel is working, right? So fine, we looked at Misho, we looked at Bharat Pay, we looked at everything else, and we said no, right? Uh, but we at least saw those deals at the right time, right? There is no point seeing those, or they're not. I mean, if you don't see those deals, then obviously there's no reason for regret. So you look at positives. You're saying as long as the deal flow is working, the mechanism, your flywheel is working, you're in the right place, right? And most investors will strive to be at that place where you're the preferred, if not even the preferred, if you're seeing access to high quality deals from various sources. Yeah. Yeah.
How does that flywheel work to get access to the
No,
best
so
deals?
obviously, the biggest thing is you got to do your time. When you do your time, some of your bets, scale up, shape up, and that is what people look up to. So, if somebody is building in space, as an example, they'll go out and look at a portfolio. They're saying, okay, who did Pixxel? Who did Bellatrix? Who did this? The next one. Let me just talk to Avesh and Kshitij or to Rohan and Yashas, take a founder feedback if these are the right people to do that, right? So people will look at that. And so if you support the right teams, they scale up well. The next lot is looking up to those founders and saying, who do I go to? What was their experience? That's the biggest flywheel. The other flywheel is, relationship within the ecosystem, right? Your downstream and upstream relationships, you know, their view on
Downstream would
us.
be like incubators and accelerators.
Incubators, yeah, correct, right? And yeah, so
Upstream is like PE.
yeah, so the other way around. And but yeah, but you know the ecosystem plays like that, right? And so plus our own investors, we're fortunate to have some seriously high quality investors, right? These are founders and leaders from tech companies which are now listed. These are partners with consulting firms like Bain, BCG, or the big four firms like EY, PwC. And a lot of people go to them, for their opinions, or they're coming out of these organizations to set up on their own, right? So, that in itself is a good way of getting access. Yeah.
Okay. Uh, when there is misutilization of funds, misappropriation, whatever term you want to use for it, uh, often the VCs are blamed that you should have known better. Do you agree with that?
100% I agree with that. 100% I agree with that. If you're saying we're active, uh, we're spending a lot of time with the founders. We're their 4 a.m. friend or a 2 a.m. friend. Yeah. Then we should be in the know, right? And we're sitting on structured reviews, we're having informal conversations, we're reviewing data, uh, you know and if even with all that you're able to tell that we don't know what's cooking, I find it hard to believe.
Why did Blue Smart get away with it for so long before? Like,
you know Difficult to tell. Maybe the founders were smart enough to play the data in a good way. And Blue Smart is an interesting story actually. So Blue Smart, one of the biggest reasons for them to go down is because of their parent company or a shareholder, Gensol. Gensol is where there was a true impact, right? And that took Blue Smart with them. So if an investor is sitting reviewing Blue Smart data, right, you could be seeing a far better picture compared to what's happening in Gensol, right? Yeah, so maybe because of that, right? But in the past we've had, Byju's is the biggest story. How did they get valued at 22 billion and not see what's coming? Go Mechanic was another story, which is going through a rebuild. Zilingo was another. There are so many, right? And I find it hard to believe that the investors don't know. Maybe they choose to look away. Because actually you got to understand this. If an investor is sitting in a high momentum company, and that high momentum company is able to attract capital again and again, my multiples are showing. Maybe the tendency is to say, okay, let me just play another round. I'll find an exit. I'm out. We'll go. Yeah.
yeah, you don't want to rock the boat and
You don't want to rock the
risk
boat.
your
You
money,
know,
because your money is in there. So if you rock the boat, your money is at risk.
yeah. So I'll give you an example. I can't name this company. This is not from a portfolio. This is from a private equity company. Yeah. So one leading private equity invested in a particular company. This particular company was designed to have retail stores of their own. Okay. So this P fund P1, they stayed invested in this particular company. They followed on another company in the same company, and the director or the founder or the promoter kept showing growth, that I'm increasing the number of stores, my revenues are going up, profits are looking better. Another PE guy came in. Okay, they did their diligence. They bought out the first PE. Okay, and they're seeing only good things. PE number three was pitched to saying, hey, this company is great, my best performing portfolio company. Can you come in, join, take a bet? They did the diligence. They obviously did the right diligence. They discovered that the number of stores being told are non existent. 70% of the stores do not exist.
Wow.
So, 6 years in the making, one PE got an exit as well, another one invested as well. The third guy came in and found there's a gap. Similar example, this Indonesian company, e-fisheries, if you read about that, that's again an amazing story, right? Uh, Revenues are getting artificially pumped, and but there's no core. And the founder said in one of the interviews that this is a known game, right? This happens all the time.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Or like
You know,
builder.ai with
builder.
yeah.
Obviously, I'm not privy to builder.ai. Neither am I privy to e-fisheries or the private equity. These are stories for us, right? But you take the stories and make sure that your little shop works in the right way. That's all you can do, right? You can still make a mistake. You can still make a mistake, right? But that's fine. You know, uh, it's a high risk sort of a capital. You'll get better in the game. Do your diligence right. After your diligence, if you still can't find any reasons to identify those kind of issues, so be it. You made a mistake around diligence, right? Do not compromise on your diligence, right? Do not compromise on your diligence. Don't look for false signals as to why this company is worth backing.
Mm. But what I also hear is, in a way, it's almost your fiduciary duty to your investors that if you did bad diligence and got into a business, you cannot let that business sink. You have to find a buyer for it or whatever. I mean, you have to, like,
I
you
no,
can't speak out
I
and
no, I disagree with that. I disagree with that.
mm,
This is an old Punjabi saying, right?
mm.
एक टोपी पहना दो, right? So आपने अपनी
What does
टोपी
that
किसी
mean?
और को पहना.
Is that two
It
people?
means
Okay.
take the monkey off your back and give it to someone else, and I'm
Yeah,
done.
yeah, 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 yeah.
No, I disagree with that. I think fundamentally, if there's a realization that you made a mistake, you back the round founder. To your investors, admit it, accept it, and go back and sort your processes. And make sure. I would go out and make sure that the company is completely scaled down, written off, and nobody else is finding takers for that.
Mm,
Unless there's a scenario where the particular issue is directed to one particular individual, and you believe that if you remove that individual out of the equation, you can fix it.
okay.
So you take the responsibility to fix it. Once it's done, go out and get people. So yeah, be honest to the incoming investors, bring them
Mm,
in,
mm,
show skin in the game that we're also putting in more money and we think this is salvageable and this
mm,
can be built into something big. But be clear with your investor communication.
mm,
You cannot fool around and present a story that everything is great, because at the end the founder's backing you. This is a trust game that you're playing. You can't break that, right?
mm, mm.
And you lose trust, you lose respect, you're out of the game. As simple
Mm.
as that.
Yeah.
Reputation is all you have, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We've not yet spoken about the growX journey, your own journey. You said it started with angel investing. Where did you get the money from for being an angel investor?
So there's a backstory, but the short answer to that is I often borrowed to do my first set of investments. But the backstory, yeah, we'll chat about that. But the backstory is, I started growX 2008. Yeah, so it's been 17 years. But prior to 2008, I had roughly 15 years of work experience, right? So my last stint ahead of starting growX was with an outsourcing company called Vertex. Yeah, I was the CEO of the India business, and had global responsibilities. And I did 6 years with Vertex from 2002 to 2008. Yeah,
And this was what,
and
like a BPO kind of
it was
a.
a BPO. It was a
Okay.
BPO, and with a lot of call center work. Yeah, so we were focused on UK as a market. So Vertex was a UK based company, and our main focus was UK as a market. We were working with a bunch of traditional legacy companies like a telecom company called Vodafone. Orange. We were working with a utilities company called PowerGen and United Utilities, and we were also working with a bunch of new age tech companies. Yeah, so lastminute.com, trainline.com. So and back in India, here we were doing the call center work, the IT services work, the BPO work. So it's a full fledged, right? I joined 2002. At that point of time, we were just kind of kicking off work in India, and at peak we had 3,500 odd people servicing the UK market only, and so that was, as a CEO, I was paid reasonably well. Yeah, so it's a different call that say that I think my last salary at Vertex as a CEO. Uh, and what I earned in growX maybe for the first 10 years cumulatively was still lower than my last 1 year salary.
Oh wow. Okay.
I still make far less than what I used to make then, right?
Right,
So,
right, right.
so there were some assets
Mm.
that got accumulated, and through my angel investing, and my wife shouldn't be hearing all this. All those assets one by one have been liquidated to refocus or reprioritize towards tech investing. Yeah, but to the point, I also borrowed, right? But 15 years of work, 15 years of work. We started growX with some savings, and
Why did you quit Vertex? You were at the peak of your career.
I was just starting my career. I wouldn't say I was at the peak of my career. I had my entire 15 years, I worked with three organizations, and all three phenomenal organizations from a learning perspective. Yeah, and I think I was just starting up. So 2008 uh, is a long time back. I was 35. Yeah, I was 35 then. 35, you're just starting up. You've done 10, 15, you've done 10, 15 years of work behind that, but this is just kind of molding yourself, building yourself, figuring out what the core is, right? And for me, the calling always was to, build something on your own. And GrowX gave me that opportunity, right? Obviously, there's a backstory in terms of how we started GrowX. What was the no? Okay, there are two different aspects. Yeah, so my main degree is a CA degree. Yeah, growing up, if somebody, and this is going back to school days, grade 6, grade 7, grade 8. If somebody asked you what do you want to become, what do you want to pursue, for strangely my answer was I want to do CA, right? I, I have no idea in terms of why I used to say that and why that piece, but fortunately, I finished that degree. And in the middle of my degree, I realized that this is not my thing, right? I don't know why I wanted to do this. But over the years, I've realized in terms of why did I end up doing CA, because there was a huge advantage at a life level. We'll talk about that later, which, that door opened up for me. But through those CA days, when I did my training, my internship, it used to be called articleship back then. Again, I was lucky to kind of work with a firm which did everything non-accounting, right? So, we were away from statutory audits, which is reviewing balance sheets and finalizing balance sheets, or the taxation work, or the compliance work. We were not doing any of that. But that experience has, there's a term then, still is, called management auditors, internal auditors. The job was to go to factories, go to offices, go to warehouses, review internal practices, and find gaps with systems and procedures. Plug those gaps. It could be a fraudulent situation. It could be a efficiency related work. You were doing a lot of those reviews, internal controls, right, to make sure the governance part which you spoke about, that gets fixed at the ground level, right? What gets reported is actually what happened at the ground. Yeah, but that opened up a consulting career, right? So I worked with Anderson Consulting, Accenture for 5 years, and at that point of time, the tech world was truly, the first set of .com companies were being built. Yeah, so when I joined Accenture, 98, a global CEO at that point of time. And this was late '98 or early '99. A guy called, I still remember his name. I never met him. A guy called George Shaheen, global CEO. He quit Accenture. Now you should have asked him the question at the peak of your career. Why? What are you doing? And he quit to set up a company called Webvan. Webvan was the first online grocery company.
Yeah.
Right? They raised $800 million, and they got
I
nothing
think
out of it.
they were publicly listed also, right? Like
I don't think so they were publicly
something like
listed. The
that.
company tanked, right? Because back then, there was no market for tech. But these were the first set of
Yeah, these were
tech-first
the
companies.
Webvan is like the poster boy for that .com
Yeah,
boom and bust. Yeah.
and in my Accenture experience, I was working with obviously a lot of these large or mid-sized companies in India, be it a cement manufacturer, be it a pharma company, be it an auto company. But we were also supporting some of these legacy companies, traditional companies, foray into newer segments using technology, right? So with one of my clients, we built, which was very, very early, uh, an online or the first electronic exchange to deal in stocks, right? We were replicating what is this company called in the US? I'll get the name. Putting that in India, and obviously it wasn't successful because the market was non-existent. The APIs weren't there. Putting it all together was a nightmare. And today, look where Zerodha is, where Grow is, where some of the other platforms are, right? And this is back then. So I got exposed to technology. I got exposed to this venture ecosystem. That you raise capital fairly early in my career, right? And in my head, I started dabbling with the idea that I want to go into this side of the thing, right? And I was divided with two potential line or possible options. One was I wanted to work with sick companies. At that point of time, there used to be a forum called BIFR, Bureau of some assets, which are written down assets, turnaround opportunity, some reconstruction thing, right? I've forgotten that. And I said, ye karte, find these companies, put your knowledge and rebuild those companies. And the second stage was, the investing, mostly private equity. I think back then in India, there was nothing called PE, there's nothing called VC. And, 4 or 5 people were just investing money. I said, if there's an opportunity there as well, wouldn't mind exploring. So I did interview back then with the Chris Capital with a bunch of these new age, they used to be called tech incubators or accelerators at that point of time, a company called Ant Factory. All of them rejected me. And they said, we don't want a CA, we would prefer an IIM. So that rejection had a huge role to play, starting growX. Yeah. And, when we started growX, we formed ourselves as we called ourselves a management capital firm. Yeah. We said we'll put in a lot of our time, work with a certain category of entrepreneurs, and these were creative entrepreneurs. Think of a chef, think of a designer, think of an architect. We said we'll partner with this lot and help build, large lifestyle businesses. Yeah. And that was my, in a way, our approach to set up a grounds up VC business by not putting a lot of money, but putting our time and working with early stage companies and building it up. And one thing led to the other, right? We got written about, some people got to know about us, people started reaching out, so deal flow started picking up. And then, we had a first couple of unicorns in India, consumption story stacking up. And we said, now is a good time to kind of build your own angel portfolio. And we started investing. And, with investing, these are all great conversations in social get-togethers, right? Isn't it? So you make a point that I made this investment. This is what the company does. The excitement is less about the founder, more about the idea, and these ideas are unique. Nobody's thinking who the founder is, and some people got excited, right? And they said, "Hey, next time you find a particular deal, let us know. We would like to tag along." And me and my partner back then, we morphed into an angel club, a close group angel club. And that's how we did our first set of 23 investments. Yeah. And through that 23 investments, which were actually deployed over maybe 6 years, 2012, 2018, but the large part was 15, 16, 17, and 18. We built our our own frameworks in terms of what's right, what do we want to focus on, what works, how do we support founders, and so on and so forth. One piece that kind of came out of that was uh, we're good at with B2B businesses. These are the businesses we relate to. We can support better. We can contribute at strategy. We can contribute at revenue growth or acceleration. We can contribute with ops issues, and our money is doing some work. You put 3 crores, 4 crores in a B2B company, it lasts a few months. As opposed to a consumer company, 2-3 crores, you blink and the money's over, right? We said this is safe. So the 2019, when we set up our first fund, that was all B2B focused. We were probably one of the few guys who picked up B2B focus at that point of time and said, this is all we want to do. And we said within B2B, we want to prefer founders building on the deeper end of technology. In our 23 investments, we had done a few hardware companies, consumer as well as enterprise. We backed a drones company. We backed this a GoPro Challenger, which is where Amar fits in. We backed that. We did a bunch of these software first deep tech companies as well, building proprietary tech to solve for problems. Locus was one, Match3 Den was another, Condal was another, and a bunch of these companies. And that kind of gave us, enough to set up a first fund. So you asked a question, what got you motivated to angel invest? There was this deep passion to break into this space, become a venture investor. B, the market was picking up momentum. We were seeing signs of that. C, the work we had done, I done with Accenture, Vertex, working with these tech companies, that played a role in terms of what's good, what's not. So the mental framework was there. So all these things contributed. Yeah. And today, I think I call ourselves a bootstrapped VC. Yeah. So, we laid brick by brick and still doing it. Still a long way to go.
Right. Amazing. Okay. So that 2012 to 18 period when it was like an angel investing club, how were you meeting payroll, etc., paying rent,
No,
salaries?
so
Like,
no, that's a very good question. That's a very good question. I think a lot of we had a consulting sort of a gig. We were working with mid-sized companies, helping them move from point A to point B. These are long-term relationships, 2 year, 3 year, and take a company public. Merger integration cycle. So that gave us some kitchen money. When we did the Angel Club, we did an element of fee-based model. So we said anyone signing up, put up a small membership fee, which was very tiny, very insignificant, but that allowed us to put one resource and take the salary and the office rent. And the large part was coming out of our savings, Akshay. We weren't at the stage where we were making money. Yeah. But the good thing we did, and we were the first to structure our Angel Club like that, we ran it pretty much like a fund. So sourcing was ours, diligence was ours, external investment committee, all the money was rolled into a single SPV. So, single entry into the cap table of the founder's company, a performance-based upside for us, which is carry lower than standard market, but there was a carry. And we said, if we're doing it, let's kind of do it properly. We probably were the only angel club with a carry model with, like I said, we ran it like a fund. Yeah. So outside of on-demand capital, everything else was like a fund. Yeah. And that kind of helped us set up the first structured fund in 2019. So yeah, savings had a role to play and to kind of take care of that. Yeah.
inspiring. So Fund 1 2019, how much was that?
All put together, including our commitment, 162 crores, 162.5 maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
And how many funds since then? You are now at which fund?
No, so this is so Angel Club, we label it as Fund 0. Fund 1 was this 162 2019 vintage. In between Fund 1 and Fund 2, we ran a bunch of syndicates. Think of it like an Angel Club only. We were testing strategy for this particular fund. We were making sure we're relevant while we're raising capital. So that was more like an Angel Club. So we called it as Fund 1.5, and this is fund two. This is a 400 crore corpus. Yeah, doing the strategy, which we spoke about. We're still raising. So if there are investors listening to the conversation who are willing to kind of back us, please knock on our door.
Uh, you need to declare in advance the size of the fund, right? Like, so what is the
400 crores, I said. Fund.
okay?
This
Okay,
current fund is 400 crores.
okay,
Yeah.
400, which currently you're still in the process of
We're,
finalization.
yeah, we
Okay.
midway. We midway. We've
Okay.
done a first close. We've started doing our first few investments. Like I said, the first announcement will go out next week, coming week of and we're in the game. Yeah, yeah.
Um, is 400 crore enough for Series B investments also? Because Series B would be like bigger checks, right? Like,
I think reality is nothing is enough, right? Is it 400, is 4,000, 40,000? Nothing is enough, right? You need to first figure out in terms of what's your ability to kind of raise capital, how much is good enough to generate a significant alpha for your investors. That's the call, right? The second thing is for seed and Series B, we have very unique strategies. I'll tell you how. Seed, our ticket size could be anywhere between, on an average, let's say 8 crores. Yeah, and we want to lead those rounds. Uh, Seed is focused only on deep tech companies, hardware first approach to solve for a problem. And we are taking, from our perspective, reasonable ownership. Yeah, so 8 to 12% at that round. Yeah. Series B, on the other side, we're not leading those rounds. We are co-investing alongside a lead investor. We are participating with 10 to 15% of the round in the making. So if it's a 200 crore round, our check size could be 20 to 30 crores. Yeah. We are therefore ownership agnostic. At 20, 30 crores, we'll probably get 1%, 2%, 3% of the company, depending on what it is. Our idea is to find breakout companies at that inflection point from where we expect compounding to happen at Series B. Building our thesis in terms of why Series B is the product market fit, why Series B is the inflection point. That's what we're trying to do. So when we're not leading rounds, 20, 30 is good enough. And both sides of the portfolio are looking to build 10 to 12 companies. Of the 400 crores, therefore, 100 crores is going towards seed, 300 crores is going to Series B. Yeah. When we do our next fund, hopefully we'll increase the allocation to Series B to, start being ownership sensitive, if you like, right? So, and we'll see. Yeah, but we got our own frameworks in terms of how do we work with seed stage founders? How do we support Series B founders? Yeah.
mm. Okay,
Yeah.
no, good stuff. I like the strategy. It's fairly unique. I
Yeah.
hope people don't copy it after listening to you here.
No,
Okay.
no. Actually, the deal is, there are all the ideas are out there, right? It's about how you execute, right? Yeah. So execution is the key. People can take their ideas if they execute better than us. All the credit to them, right? So there's no IP around the idea.
Okay. I want to ask a question which is somewhat personal, but hopefully there is listener interest also. How does one become a VC? So say someone like me, I have, let's say, a network because I've been podcasting for 5 years now. So
Yeah.
interviewed
Yeah.
550 odd founders, VCs,
Yeah.
etc. But I don't have capital.
Yeah.
So how does someone like me get into this world and become a VC?
No, that's a very good question, and I'm glad you asked a question with your context. Because in India, leave out the global markets. In India, there are examples where people with a similar sort of a context or a background, they gone out and raise their own funds, right? One of them is Jivraj, right? Young guy runs his podcast, interviews the best and the best out there, yeah, and worked with AngelList, but he was more ops. Through the ops and the money he was making, he started building his own angel portfolio, started slowly on syndicates, and demonstrated through his podcast the ability to uh, connect and source the best of the deals, right? And through the angel portfolio, demonstrated ability to underwrite and build conviction around a certain set of ideas. And then when the portfolio started shaping up well, that's another cherry on the pie, if you like, to saying, okay, the entire flywheel is in motion, right? So he's saying my podcast is well listened. There's a great audience. A lot of people reach out to me for my advice, for my capital. Now I have a structure to support. I understand how to underwrite. I understand how to kind of pick the best out there, and we're seeing signs in the portfolio. Yeah. Another example is Aviral, a junior VC. Yeah. But Aviral came from an engineering background, with a good institute. He worked with funds. The last one was with Venture Highway, GC. He participated in deals, led deals, to build that chop. But his core machinery with AJ VC, was still is obviously doing phenomenally well, and he's built a fund, right? And globally, there are a bunch of other examples. Harry Stebbings is one big name that comes to mind, right? And I'm sure there are many. So all of us know that where you're sitting today, Akshay, as a podcaster, right? You're the mover or shaker of this industry, right? And if you're able to demonstrate the other aspects, which is, I know how to underwrite, I know how to support, money will follow. And my advice, Akshay, is don't go out and look for, let's say, a 500 crore fund. Start small. 20 crores is also good. 20 crores on demand is also good, because they're essentially building credibility, right? Second thing I'll say is, don't be in a rush. Don't be in a rush to say that I'm going to build a 50 company portfolio in the next 6 months. Yeah. Because that means you're just kind of saying yes to anybody and everybody coming out,
The
right?
due diligence is supremely important.
Due diligence and conviction as to why you think the sector is going to do well. And in your case, as a podcaster, as a solo GP, demonstrating as to you picking up bets where you can truly support and understand that area. Yeah. So, build your portfolio over time, because with that time will happen, let's say it's 2 year, 3 year, you build a 20 company portfolio, the initial ones will start showing results, both negative and positive. The learnings could therefore get incorporated into this. Yeah. The last thing I'll say is make sure you build a network of experts around it. Network of experts who've done this before, right? So you're not outsourcing conviction building. You are helping understand portfolio construct. How do you allocate? Relevance of ownership. What rights to exercise. Conviction is yours, right? So, because that is what you need to demonstrate. But you're getting the other network to make sure everything around that to set up a fund, you get to learn and you get to leapfrog working with experts. Yeah.
So you're saying start with a small fund, or start with syndicates like on angel list, etc.
No, let's say today you decide, Akshay, that you want to start up a fund. Okay. The process is, you need to get a lawyer. You need to build a thesis. You need to apply to SEBI. You need to raise investors, find investors. This entire thing, irrespective of the amount, it's a 12-month to 15-month journey. Yeah. So it's not that, today you say you apply to SEBI give you approval, the next day there's somebody sitting with a bag full of money to saying, yellow, right? So you have that 12-month window, right? Or maybe a 24-month window. Use that time to run syndicates. The structures are available. It's easy to kind of build it. And, today you have a network. You may have interviewed hundreds or thousands of people, use that as your community to raise capital. Yeah. Yeah. And start with syndicates, build your track record. And when you actually get your approvals, hit the market to raise institutional capital or structured capital, blind pool capital, you have something to showcase.
Right. You have a track record. Okay, interesting. Okay, let me end with this one last question. What are the opportunities you're bullish on? You have mentioned space and defense as two big opportunities. Are you still bullish on EVs? And what else are you bullish on from a deep tech perspective?
No, so semiconductors, cybersecurity, there's a lot of talk around nuclear, the entire core IP-led manufacturing, bunch of sectors, and, like I said, we label it as modern industrials, right? And within that, there are a bunch of these sectors which are relevant. Yeah. Are we prioritizing one over the other? The answer is no, right? Are we saying that this year let's do defense, next year let's do space again? The answer is no, right? We equipping ourselves to react best to a high quality founder and make sure we're in the best place to take a decision earlier than the others. Yeah.
What do you mean by IP-led manufacturing?
No, so let's say someone's manufacturing drones, right? Within drones, there are a bunch of these components which are going, right? So this is just not a pure assembly thing, right? And you within those each of those components, there's an element of engineering which is required. Therefore, that is your IP. You're putting it all together. A lot of those components today are not available in India. You source it through Taiwan, you source it through China or other parts of the world. Bring them into India, right?
Does India need tariff protection from China to build manufacturing?
This obviously there is all these geopolitical issues, right? Every leader comes in, they the leader comes in with his or her own perspective in terms of what's right for the country. Yeah, that perspective holds good for a certain period of time. The next one comes in, changes the game, right? I don't think so. We need tariff protections. I don't think so. We need to be aware of what's happening around the world. That's how you hit the ground running, and you're kind of opportunistic from a timing perspective, right? But you got to make sure if you build something which is fundamentally strong and fundamentally relevant, uh, it needs to survive irrespective of these tariffs or no tariffs or whatever structure it is, right?
But
You cannot.
I mean,
Yeah.
are we even close to China in terms of being competitive with them? So then how will we?
No, we're
how will
not.
anything happen if there is no protection first to
No,
let the
collaborate,
seeds?
collaborate, collaborate,
Yeah.
collaborate, right? I don't think so we should even compare ourselves with China. China is way, way ahead. Take any field, right? They're way, way ahead. I was reading somewhere, that in China, I need to pull out the list. There are some 40 odd or maybe 50 odd space tech unicorns. There are these 30, 40 semiconductor unicorns, right? In India, we have zero, right? There are these AI companies which are, in a way beating the shit out of some of the American giants, right? With less capital, DeepSeek, Manas, and a few other things, right? And when you try those products, you can tell what's happening, right? I mean, I'm not an expert, but, as a user, I can tell. So I don't think so. We need to waste our time with comparing ourselves with China. Yeah. Admit we're behind, but we're sitting in a great time. This next decade or two is for India. Yeah. This China plus one, which sometimes it feels to me that we wasted a lot of time. It's been doing the rounds for the last 4 or 5 years. We've not acted on it fast enough. We need to accelerate the pedal and build on our own, right? And they have their own methods. We need to find our own, right? So saying that I'm going to produce the next electric vehicle cheaper than China in the next 2 years, better quality is not going to happen, right? So there are other opportunities, I'm sure. Dig deep, find relevant for India, and build it up. This yeah.
I was listening to an interview of Raghuram Rajan, the former RBI governor, in which his stance was that why are you pushing manufacturing and why are you trying to compete with China and why are you trying to get semiconductor manufacturing in India? You will waste decades and a lot of capital. Instead, why don't you try and boost services? That is the advantage which India truly has. And, so, I mean, do you agree with that?
No, I don't. I think it's not decades wasted. These are decades invested, right? If we want to be a global major economy, we need to fire on both cylinders, which is services as well as manufacturing. We have a problem brewing in India, and that problem is our population. We need to make sure we generate meaningful opportunities for our demographics, and that will happen when we are doing services and manufacturing both. right? This is not one versus the other. I don't think so. Anyone is suggesting, or any government is pursuing a path that let's deprioritize services and let's just kind of focus on manufacturing. Nobody is doing that. The idea needs to be, if services is working well for us, take it 10x more, while attempting to take manufacturing and all the other good things related with that to a 0 to 1, right? So, 1 to 10x there, 0 to 1 here, and, build it, right? So, I mean, who am I to disagree with Raghuram Rajan? But let's say I am disagreeing, and that's a very different perspective. Maybe there's more context to what he said, right? We need to read through or listen through the full thing, and but these aren't years wasted; these are years invested. Yeah. And what is the point of saying that we're behind, so let's not do it, right? That doesn't make sense, right? And I'll put another aspect to it. We need to uh, put sports in the mix. This got nothing to do with the economy, right? But we need to make sure that we play more. Therefore we fight more, and a resilient workforce comes into play, right? Take all superpowers, take all global economies, right? China was nothing when it comes to Olympics. In the last 20 years, they're the country to reckon with, right? Across all aspects, build that up. Top three, yeah, and we're nowhere. Where are our athletes? Where are our swimmers? Find those, develop those, build that infra as well. We aspire to kind of host the Olympics 8 years, 12 years from now. We need to have our own army of athletes participating. So we can't. We need to do everything, right? And even our services. Someone could say that hospitality is huge in India, but a tiny country like Thailand, a tiny country like Vietnam, Sri Lanka, they are ahead of us. They're more service oriented. The only good piece we've done is on GCC, IT services. And now we need to just kind of grab the AI wave and make sure all of these companies stay relevant, right, in times to come, right? So I know this was the last question you asked. It was the longest response, but this is what it is.
Thank you so much for your time, Ashish. It was a real pleasure.
No, enjoyed my conversation, Akshay. Thanks for hosting me, and let's hope it works out for the listeners as well. Yeah.